Hello, Jesse McDougall here, taking a productive procrastination break from doing work. Do book review today. I've done a book review in quite a while, at least a month, I believe. My camera's been full and just haven't got around to emptying it. So here we are. But this book, how to do it. 100 mistakes that changed history. I made a post on my Instagram. JMacDougCA is my handle. The last lesson in here was here. Those who do not study history are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. And for me, I don't know, like when my career is going, I don't know, maybe I'm turned to a little bit of a philosopher or something. I don't really know what philosophy was till a couple of years ago. I'm just coming full circle with like intelligence and wisdom, and having multiple skills in different fields, like technical skills in different fields. Just kind of, wondering what's the whole point of learning all this knowledge and stuff like that. And really sent me into a rabbit hole for history and just studying us as humans and the world and all that. And it's pretty cool, man. Just absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. I think with my children that I'll have, they'll definitely be studying history and stuff like that. Get them more involved in studying history and the wars of the world versus like the new X-Men movie, right? It's probably a better use of your time. This book is just beyond amazing. It's definitely genius level book. The thing I liked about it is like each of the lessons are short. They're like a couple pages long. I think the longest lesson was like 5 pages, maybe 7. So this book wasn't like, say if you got 3 kids and a career and you like barely have any money and you're just like struggling by or whatever, before bed read a chapter of this, right? Or you get up in the morning and read a chapter of this or a lesson, right? After 3 months you've read the book and you've acquired some massive knowledge, like some very, very, very important knowledge that you don't really hear on the radio. You don't see a lot of social media posts. You don't see on TV. You see a lot of documentaries and stuff, but it's not as popular. But this is the value, man. This is the wisdom here. I'll read some stuff here. Being outwitted is not a mistake. Doing something so stupid that any reasonable person would know it would cost you the battle, your kingdom, or your life is a mistake. Let's see here. Ambition. Oh yeah. Darius had appointed a tyrant to rule in his name to collect taxes. Yes, even at the dawn of civilization, it was all about taxes. This comes back to my whole philosophy on my career. The foundation was numbers. No numbers. Know how money works, know how businesses work, know how every transaction of a business, which is your life, your personal finances, or your corporation, I look at them as the same, affects your net income. You need to pay attention to this. It's been around since the dawn of civilization. If you want the freedom, if you want, money, avoid money struggles, you got to learn the game, man. It's a game. Okay, move on. Persian Empire could not and did not tolerate threats. The mistake Aristogoras made from insulting his admiral to starting a self-serving and hopeless revolt began the Greco-Persian Wars that included the Battle of Marathon, the famous stand of the 300 Spartans, and eventually Alexander the Great's the conquest of Persia. And this was under the rule of ambition. Okay, so great book. One on devaluing currency. Now, I read this one book, Currency Wars, amazing book. Next war is apparently going to be a currency war. It's not going to be a war where people are killing one another. I think humans know what world wars do to one another, and it's not good for anyone. There's still a lot of violence going on in the world. What's kind of interesting is terrorism is affecting multiple countries all over Canada. We just had an attack in Edmonton. Police officer was, I think, stabbed. The U.S. mass shootings, biggest ever. Russia, France, Britain apologized. The other ones, I just don't know. I'm just kind of ignorant, but yeah, it's pretty scary. But at the same time, I do believe good will triumph over evil for sure. 2/3 of people on Earth are good. 1/3 of people on Earth are evil. That's the story of Saint Michael and Lucifer. Okay, enough of that. Devaluing currency, yes. This mistake is one made over and over by great nations. So this is a common scenario, man, and empires. Okay, it is hoped that our current leaders have learned from history. Kind of scares me. I don't really know what our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, but I hear some very bad things from some people that I really respect in the money world, and the career world, the accounting world. So people's opinion I'm going to listen to. Very scary, very scary. The mistake here is using inflation to pay the bills. The Weimar Republic in post-World War I Germany created hyperinflation by just printing all the money they needed, and hence decreasing the Dutch mark until it was effectively valueless. Weimar's government was voted out of office, and the Nazis were voted in on the promise to fix the economy. We all paid a high price for that inflationary spiral. So, before World War I, the current government in Germany, through their policy decisions, increased hyperinflation. Obviously, nobody wanted that. So then the Nazis were voted into power. And that led to World War I and II, and the worst atrocities ever witnessed on Earth. Okay, the original economic strength of Rome was built on land. Value is in land. Okay, Canada, here, we have so much land. Excess land, empty land, vacant land. Immigration is going to increase as time goes on over here, and it should. It really should. With no more slaves or land to sell or grant, the wealth of the government had to come from taxes. Those rich and influential noble families were the only real counterbalance to his power as emperor. So being able to tax them into poverty reinforced his own position by eliminating any competition. It was too subtle. It was not too subtle economic warfare. But by the time Emperor Nero, the well was running dry. The rich weren't very rich anymore. Nero had to start taxing the poor and middle class. This action slowed the economy even more, and it did not make the leader very popular with the masses, and that was even before the fire. Yeah, the city of Rome had a huge fire, and it just devastated Rome. Nero's solution was to mint silver coins that weren't all silver. This practice is called debasing the currency. So issued silver coins, but didn't weigh actually what he said they weighed. So he's devaluing the weight of the metal. Nero's debasing of the Roman currency set a precedent that many future emperors were happy to follow. By the reign of Claudius II in 268 BCE, the actual silver content of a silver denarius was less than 1%. So you held a silver coin, 1% of that is actually silver, some other kind of metal. This was not enough silver in a Roman. So I'll move on from the Roman stuff. I've just read the Roman stuff. This is when it started, and now we'll fast forward to the US. Here is some food for thought. 70 years ago, the US dollar was first devaluated when the Federal Reserve Bank decided to raise the cost of an ounce of gold from $20 to $35 per ounce. Then 35 years ago, the value of gold or silver was totally detached from the US dollar. This was called going off gold, and later the United States went off the silver standard. It was then that the bills marked as silver certificates were withdrawn from circulation. That was because technically they could be turned in at a Federal Reserve Bank for silver coins or bars. Since then, nothing has actually supported the US dollar or most other currencies beyond the faith and promise of each government. Just like the Roman denarius, the gradual debasing of the value of the US dollar has continued without slowing. With inflation and the growing price of gold, the dollar can buy only 10% as much gold as it could have in 1971. That means in terms of hard exchange, the United States has debased its currency 90% in the last 40 years. With the deficit increasing, the spiral of inflation threatens. It seems we may have learned the wrong lesson from Nero. If this doesn't concern you, if this doesn't raise some signals like, hey, I need to look at my life and look at this whole money thing, that kind of scares me. It doesn't get any more clear than that. You got over 2,000 years ago, Romans did the same thing, set the precedent. United States devalued their currency 90% over the last 40 years. These are real numbers. I keep saying this in my life. One of my friends finds it pretty funny. These are real numbers, guys. People need to pay attention to this. Hey, let's look into this. Yeah, move on to here, do a couple more. Overconfidence, but how do you top this devaluating the currency lesson? And this is only lesson 16 in this book. So, overconfidence. Jews were not willing to give up all they had sacred for the sake of progress and profit. So the Jews, they wanted to hold on to their rights and their beliefs, and they refused to give those up for growth and profit. Let's see, Colosseum War. Yeah, this is tough, man. I'm gonna read this last one here, and then I'll probably cut this off. It's already 12 minutes. Wow, time flies by. So I'll keep reading this about overconfidence. So again, the Jews were not willing to give up all they had sacred for the sake of progress and profit. Florius answered this outcry by allowing his soldiers to pillage part of the city in response to the city's masses, and rose up against the Roman leaders and drove them out of Judea. Gessius Florus fled to the protection of another Roman garrison on the coast of the Caesarea. When their position was revealed to the Romans, Josephus decided to surrender. However, his companions did not allow it, so Josephus had another idea. Every third man would kill his closest neighbor. Listen, this is crazy. This is real history. Absolutely nuts. Why isn't there a movie about this? Why is there a movie about Blade Runner and stupid other stuff like X-Men? Wolverine movies are cool. Come on, man. This is important stuff. Okay, so listen to this. When the position was revealed to the Romans, Josephus decided to surrender. However, his companions did not allow it, so Josephus had another idea. Every third man would kill his closest neighbor. When the last two men were left standing, they would draw lots to decide which man would kill the other. The last man would kill himself. This meant that only one man would break Jewish law by committing suicide. Of course, Josephus was one of the last two men alive. He stated in his writing that it was God's will, but it could have simply been the result of someone who could perform simple mathematics. Josephus was taken prisoner, but was later released. He lived out the rest of his life in Rome. That's nuts. I don't know how many people there were. There's hundreds of people, probably 1,000 people there. Imagine witnessing that. Absolutely astonishing. The Jews answered this new threat by tunneling under the walls of the city to attack the troops inside the great towers. They managed to cripple or destroy them all. So Titus came up with his most ruthless plan, taking a note from Julius Caesar. He had a 4.5-mile long wall built completely around the city. If the Jews wouldn't surrender, he would starve them into submission, just like at Alesia a century earlier. The Roman wall meant no supplies could reach the inhabitants within. All Titus had to do was to wait. Then an unexpected disaster happened. The tunnel that the Jews
built to try to infiltrate the siege towers collapsed. In doing so, it undermined a section of the third wall. Several meters of the wall collapsed into rubble. The city was now vulnerable. Roman legionnaires stormed through the city, taking out years of frustration on inhabitants. In the end, the temple was destroyed and hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. The rest were sold into slavery. The destruction of the Temple of Solomon devastated the Jewish community. The rebellion that sought to empower the Jewish people instead resulted in their near destruction. They fought for their beliefs and things they felt were theirs by their right as God's people. They wished to honor their God by refusing to make sacrifices to other gods. They wanted independence, and most of all, they wanted to preserve the most sacred of God's holy places, the temple in Jerusalem. Instead, thousands were enslaved. Many more were killed, and the temple was destroyed. The heart of the Jewish people was no more. A once strong and vigorous people were broken and scattered. Their history changed forever because the Jewish people thought that a little bit of military success meant they could take on, most literally, the rest of the known world. And what happened to all the gold and other artifacts that were stolen from the temple? Vespasian used it to finance one of Rome's most powerful symbols, the Colosseum. This is lesson 17. So, honestly, I'm going to cut this off here. I could read this entire book for 3 hours and just talk about it. It's so amazing. I would really like to interview this author. I got his other book coming up. I just ordered it. It's just too good of a book. No, trust me, I know what I'm doing. 100 more mistakes that lost elections, ended empires, and made the world what it is today. Bill Fawcett. This book, absolutely amazing. If you got value in some of the conversations I was having here, this is kind of your cup of tea. Definitely please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I know my channel kind of blows right now, but we are going to be putting work into the channel. Just focusing on our email network right now. It's keeping us pretty busy, and the accounting business. Okay, guys, thanks for your time, and appreciate the comments I've been getting and the DMs. Take care. Have a good day. Educate yourself. Implement your knowledge into the world. Applied knowledge, man. Knowledge is not useful anymore because we have so much knowledge. You have to apply the knowledge that you've learned through pure hard work and imposing your will into the world. Peace.